Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Interviews with Entrepreneurs in South Africa. Today, I'm very excited to be talking to Diaz. We've been friends for some years. I think we met in 2008, and I feel very honored to have him on our show today. He's a successful entrepreneur in South Africa, and he has a lot of business knowledge to share with us today. So, if you'll just introduce yourself and your business to everybody watching and tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Well, thank you very much. For those who don't know me, I'm Diaz. KK is my initials. My first two names are Khati and Kucho. I'm Northern Sutu, aka Mbedi. Born in a farm, on the largest citrus farm in the Southern Hemisphere, just about 41 years ago. And that's how old I am. And I guess I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business consultant. I'm a business strategist. I help businesses to grow. I help entrepreneurs, business executives to come up with smart, innovative business strategies that they can use to grow their businesses. And I've been doing this for about 16 years now. And I learned my trade when I worked for Sage. It used to be called Pastel at the time. I used to be, if I'm not mistaken, the very first Black consultant that they ever employed, which is where I learned my trade. It was really a fortunate place to find myself in because, like a lot of people, I'm a college dropout. I didn't complete my university studies, and I always tell people I did that before it was the cool thing to do. So, but honestly, I'm an academic rebel. Not that one shouldn't educate themselves, but that formal education is sometimes one of those things that I think are self-fulfilling and self-sustaining entities and institutions that don't necessarily provide the kind of value that they need to provide to us as a society and as people. And so I'm just one of those who haven't committed to formally educating myself because there are many other ways to find knowledge, to find information, to get tips, and to grow, which is one of those things that I always recommend entrepreneurs to do, business people, whether they're just merely team leaders, staff, or business executives. There's lots of information out there, so go out there and find it.
That's actually such an inspiring message because I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there who feel that they can't do what they want to do because they haven't got the qualifications. So you actually feel that maybe a qualification can be a liability.
I think if it's the wrong one, definitely, and literally so, because in almost all cases, people will go out and find a loan, right? And get a loan to go to varsity or college or whatever the case may be. And a lot of people don't have the privilege of understanding who they are, what it is that they love, what it is that they'd like to pursue in their lives, what their purpose is, and so on. And so if you're not clear on those things, the likelihood that you'll make the wrong decisions are pretty high. And so, and I find that a lot of people have studied, call it the wrong thing, and therefore find themselves that it is more of a liability than it is something that they are currently using in their business or in their career or job or whatever the case may be.
Okay, that's really interesting advice. Thank you. And who are your ideal customers, KK?
So, we are really a mixed bag, and we've tried nearly for 15, 14 years now to kind of really have that one specific ideal customer. But we've really come up with two that I think have kind of distilled really that ideal customer. One is that entrepreneur who owns a business that generates 10 million annual turnover, 10 million rands per annum. This is typically somebody who employs about 10 people, and they're really looking to grow their business tenfold. Whether they want to double, triple, or 10x their business, and to build a business that won't necessarily rely on them to grow. We're looking for somebody who has high growth aspirations, somebody who wants to make a dent in the universe and create jobs. That's really somebody who's looking to upscale and to grow the business that we see as the ideal client for us. And then second to that, is really the business that the business leader that runs a business over 100 million, and they want to digitally transform their business. You know, they're looking at innovating their business model. They're looking to expand either in as far as you know, the market is concerned, or they want to contract and focus more, but by going deeper in as far as providing a much more compelling value proposition that is digitally aligned, or one that is provided in the digital era, so to speak, and driven by digital technology. And these are businesses that want to also improve compliance, security, and enable their people to work from home. So using digital technology is really how we help those businesses. So those are primarily the two main categories of clients that we have.
And are you finding that those businesses are struggling to transition into the digital space?
100%. And it's, you know, in as much as COVID-19, the pandemic and the lockdown have kind of forced people to embrace digital transformation, I feel that not enough of them are excited about the opportunity. You know what it's like when you're forced to do something, right?
Yes.
But that's how disruptions work. That's how those who've avoided the conversations and avoided the discussions on how can we protect our business, how can we ensure that we are safe from any form of disruption whatsoever. You know, very few people could have anticipated the pandemic at the scale that it actually affected us. But the idea of disruption has always been there. You know, COVID-19 is called COVID-19 because it's the 19th pandemic in the last couple of years. And so, you know, businesses or us as communities and as society should have had some form of anticipation and considered the extent to which it can actually disrupt our businesses. But to answer your question, I don't think there's enough people who've embraced digital technology and digital disruption or digital transformation rather. And I'm having less and less confidence in our society's ability to transcend and to find ourselves on the other side, at least quick enough. I think there's a lot of damage happening now that we are not paying attention to. We're not necessarily seeing the importance of us considering not just the consequences as we have them now, but also the unintended consequences. And I don't have that confidence primarily because I'm looking at the last 10, 15 years of our society, of our country. And, you know, along with that, people are less motivated, less inspired, less capable. People are feeling a lot more hopeless, right? And so what is the likelihood that even more people will rise up to the challenge now when the grass is less green on this side of things, you know? But I'm equally preaching a positive message. I mean, over the last couple of weeks, we've been hosting webinars that help business people to take on digital transformation, and we are coaching them week after week. So it's not that I'm Dr. Gloom and just want to bring the bad news. I just want to be realistic about how things have been, right? When you think back, you know, we were really in a tough economy prior to this pandemic, right? We were relegated to junk status before the pandemic. So that means things are already going badly for us, right? Meaning we were not doing enough as it was. And this was in an environment when it would have been easier. Things are tougher now, right? And so we really, really need to rise up to the challenge. And I'm just not seeing enough movement in the right direction.
So you feel there is an urgency?
Ooh, I think that's understated, you know. But you're 100% right. You know, we've been trying to raise a sense of urgency for years now.
Yes.
You know, it's a completely different ballgame now. You know,
Yes.
I don't even know what the term is, but it's beyond raising a sense of urgency. Now it's about raising urgency and action equally, right? And let's go out there and let's break things. Let's make the mistakes. the sooner we get into the things that we fear doing, the mistakes that we fear making, the sooner we'll get to the other side of this. But we have to move. We really, really have to move.
So do you feel that these big organizations are actually kind of almost trapped in their old structures?
100%. So about 2 weeks ago, we did very high level desktop research, and the number of businesses that are struggling. Okay. And what you must also understand is, as a country, as a society in South Africa, we tend to shy away from shame, right? We are a society that hates shame. And so there are many businesses that haven't said anything right now, but they're not doing well at all, right? They're literally free falling as we speak, but they're not going to say anything until they can't hide it anymore.
Yeah.
But it's karma. It's the nature of things. It's the natural order of things. If you don't plant the trees, if you didn't plant the trees 10 years ago, you're not going to have the shade today, right? Yes. And so the businesses that have not put in the effort to digitally transform and to safeguard their businesses, and more importantly, to safeguard their people, and to get their people to a point where their people can undeniably and selflessly contribute to the growth of the company. Until then, if they haven't done that, it's going to be much tougher for them now.
Do you feel there's too much of an attitude of, I'm going to just look after myself instead of looking after the greater whole?
100%. And again, that's a natural thing to do when you are fearful, when you are scared, when you don't know what to do, when you're hopeless. You feel when you feel unsafe. Your natural instinct is to protect yourself first and foremost. I mean, that's something I'm not going to take away from anyone. I think what I dislike the most that is prevalent is what we've always been, I think, as business people and as South Africans, is we play the wait and see game for far too long. That's what I dislike the most.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So you're putting out a call to action. Just act instead of waiting.
Just act. Do something. Do something. Right? We don't have the privilege of wondering what our colleagues are going to say about us if we don't know what we're talking about, or if we say something unexpected, or if we say something stupid, if we try to understand something. We don't have that privilege anymore, and that do something maybe is just to start a conversation.
Okay, that's awesome. Now, I'm going off at a tangent here, but I remember when I met you many years ago, I was very impressed with you because you said to me that you had a plan to become the youngest president in South Africa. Is that still part of your plan?
No.
Not.
I
What
dropped
changed?
that plan many years ago. What I realized was I could make a greater positive impact than most presidents would.
Okay.
In short, it was, at the time, it was really about impact. It was about helping others, and I'm realizing that, politicians and politics are really also just another evil and self-sustaining entity and institutions that don't care about anything else but its own survival. Funny enough, I've also been, not only have I, for years, I ignored the whole Donald Trump fever for years, right? Because I don't have a TV. Well, I have a smart TV now, but I didn't have a TV, so I hardly watched the news as such. And so over the last month and a half, I've really been watching a lot of what politics, and more so House of Cards, the series on Netflix. And just the reality of politics have at least come alive for me. And I've truly understood them to a point where I do not regret making the decision to never enter politics again,
Okay.
because that's what it's about. It's about politics and not about anything else.
Yes. Yes, and as I remember you, you've always been eager to make an impact in other people's lives. So I can understand that you've outgrown that childhood dream.
Sure.
Now, one of the things that you're doing this week, I've seen on the social networks, and we've shared on our Q&A group for South African entrepreneurs on Facebook, is that you are very generously giving away 5 of your books as a gift, your
Yes.
ebooks this week. Can you tell us more about that? Because you're also a published author.
Yes, yes. Just firstly, I want to mention that, you know, you were one of those people that really inspired me to put pen to paper. You know, when
Really?
I saw,
Oh,
yeah,
yay!
I remember when you were working on your first book, and because we used to be close at the time, so I mean, there was a lot that I saw happening, and I was so excited for you, and also and equally so for myself, because I was seeing the process right in front of me, right?
Okay.
But to cut the long story short, I've since published 5 books, which I'm very proud of, you know, and I continue to write more books. My next one is going to be published next year in 2021, early at some point. I've been working on it for years. It's a book on leadership. But anyway, the current books that we're giving away, they're all on Kindle. And so they are free. All 5 books are free for everyone. It's not just 5 books that we're giving away. We're giving away an unlimited number of our 5 books.
Wow.
They are on Kindle. And I know people will make those funny noises when they complain about why they're not in physical print. They're not in physical print because we are now in the digital age,
Yes.
right? So this is an opportunity for people to get to see what it's like to read books on Kindle,
Yes.
and to buy books on Kindle, at least for those who have it. But for those who have, you know, they're going to have fun because the books are filled with a lot of information, with a lot of research and wisdom that we've really accumulated over the last 10 years or so.
Yes.
But anyway, so you can either find the posts on social media by looking for KK Diaz on LinkedIn, or on Facebook, kkdiaz_SA, and on Twitter, kkdiaz_SA as well. And I'm sure you'll also provide those links.
Yes.
Those books are only available until Friday, the 26th. This is because we are celebrating June the 27th, which is known as the United Nations World MSME Day, which is World Micro, Small, Medium Enterprise Day on the 27th. And so we just want to reach out and celebrate the entrepreneurs and give them something that they can use towards growing their business and going to the next level.
That's a very, very generous gift. I recommend that everybody who's watching go out and take advantage of this very generous offer. KK has a lot of wisdom to share. Now, KK, did you publish with a publisher or have you self-published these? How did you go about the publishing process?
So I used to be in the record label, right? Just before I joined Race Corp. You know, it was a devastating failure, but it was one of those failures that I was glad to have gone through because it taught me so much.
The
So much
record
about life.
label or Race Corp?
Right? Record label. Race Corp really saved me and helped me to put my pieces together as a human being and then as an entrepreneur, which I'll always be grateful for. You know, to Alon Reyes, Colin, and everybody really who I worked with, you know, the likes of yourself, Mel. It was really a great time for me to find the next me, the next level of myself. And so the books are really a way for us to have, you know, put the pieces together and to really have collected everything that we've done over the last couple of years and just really shared with everyone. Yeah, you know, sorry, you know, the idea of Race Corp and just the failure of Liberate Records, you know, and I'm sure you can pick it up. It really shifted me.
Yes.
It put me on my axis because it was really such a such a special time, you know. Anyway, the question you asked was really about publishing. I used to be in a record label and in the music industry. And even back then, I remember how tough it was to get record deals, right, from major distribution companies and major record labels. And so we ended up really releasing our own music at the time. And when I wrote my first book before a deal, which is, you know, typical of an entrepreneur who'd start their own business before they get the first deal, if you understand what I mean.
Yes.
Right. It was really following the same process and not waiting for somebody else to define my destiny in terms of when the book would be published. And so we kind of shopped the first book around, didn't get any positive response whatsoever. And, you know, we put it out immediately. We didn't wait long. And then what we did was we connected with the distribution company, with a book distribution company that helped to get the first book at Exclusive Books. And while we were doing this, we were also studying the industry, right? And again, we could already start seeing, you know, the extent of disruption that was happening in that industry. And that's why, even though we ended up funding and bankrolling the distribution of the books, we ended up going completely virtual, completely digital by publishing the rest of the books without even asking for or seeking publishing deals. We just did it ourselves via Amazon and other platforms.
Okay.
But what I also want to add is that one of the main reasons we ended up not even using the distribution channel anymore is because it's bloody expensive. You
Yes.
literally have to fund everything, right? You fund the copies that go into the books. You don't get any marketing support, especially when you, like me, i.e. non-famous.
Yes.
Unfamous, right? There was no leverage of getting the sponsorships and the funding and so forth. But again, like many times in my life, I wasn't going to let that stop me. And so I pushed on, and, you know, the people I was working with helped me, and, you know, a couple of years later, 5 books down the road, and, you know, I can't imagine having done it another way, really.
When you were a kid, did you think you'd be a published author when you grew up?
Not when I was a kid, no.
And look at you now, 5 books later.
Right, and I'm trying. You know, my next milestone is 10.
Okay.
Is 10, and not just 10, but 10 and a school, because it's really about education and sharing information now to a point where, you know, again, going back to what I said earlier about, you know, academic qualification and academic institutions, it's really about empowering and, you know, informing ourselves. And I think the need to do that has really accelerated to a point where, you know, we cannot waste any more time. We cannot waste any more opportunities to educate our communities at the point, you know, considering where we are now and where we need to be.
So what does your school look like?
So just before the pandemic, you know, it was really going to specialize in business philosophy and leadership. Yes, it was going to be physical. It was going to be based in the townships primarily, because that's really where I want to make the impact. But since the idea of homeschooling, a combination of homeschooling and obviously digital classes, we've been playing with that, and we are still in the process of fine tuning what that model looks like. You know, it was really a dream that was 4 or 5 years out. But we said, maybe let's bring it in now, because there's really a major need now, not only because of the pandemic, i.e. lockdown, right? But we need new information now. We need new education. And the traditional education system is going to take a couple of years before they really put out the kind of information that our kids should be learning now. You know, my mother is also a teacher. My mother's a teacher as well in Soweto. And my kid is obviously, my firstborn is 16. He's in grade 11 now. And I fear for both their safety, for both their health, right? In terms of being exposed to this virus, to a point where I was really inspired to get working on the school earlier than, you know, a few years earlier than I thought. But you know, the sense of urgency is kind of, I'm not sure yet what to do with it, you know, but don't be surprised in the new year if I tell you I'm a principal of a school.
I love it. I think you'll make a great principal. You're a great model, a role model for kids out there. So, KK, I see we're getting near to the end of our time. Do you have any parting thoughts for anybody thinking about starting their own business out there?
You know, I tend to come off left with these kind of things and these kind of answers to those questions, Mel. You know, for people who are considering starting a business, I want to tell them that they shouldn't, right? I want to tell them that there are hundreds of thousands of businesses in this country that are not surviving because they don't have enough entrepreneurs in them, right? And so to answer the question, and yes, I'm just saying that to kind of draw people in, but what I'm saying is if you are considering starting a business, unless it is extremely unique, right? Don't start it. Go and find the kind of business that you want to start. Find an existing one and partner with those people. Because one of the reasons that we have such a high failure rate of business, because every one person is starting one business when we should be working together, right? We should be working together to build each other, and more than that, to complement each other, because we all have such different skills, such different talents. And I guess in wrapping that up, I want to say, you know, there's a African proverb that I love very much. It says, if you want to go fast, go alone. So start your business alone, right? But if you want to go far, go with others. And so if you are considering starting a business, go and find a business and provide them with a value proposition that will enable you, or that will compel them to allow you to join them, where you can find the best place for yourself, for your talents, and for your contribution to society.
I think that's a beautiful message. Thank you. Thank you. And where can we find you online? Where are your websites and your social networks? Where do we look for you?
So the website is www.agamebusiness.com. You can also find me at kkdiaz.com. But I'm just about live every time on LinkedIn. So just search for me as KK Diaz. You'll find me there. And yeah, Facebook, KK Diaz, you'll find me.
Okay.
That's where I'm at. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom with us today. I appreciate it so much.
Thanks, Mel. It's lovely to see you again after so long.